She could help you.
She could help you.
Ella podría ayudarte.
She could help you. They may come later.
They may come later.
Ellos pueden venir después.
They may come later. He might be busy.
He might be busy.
Él podría estar ocupado.
He might be busy. We must leave now.
We must leave now.
Debemos irnos ahora.
We must leave now. Shall we dance?
Shall we dance?
¿Bailamos?
Shall we dance? You should apologize.
You should apologize.
Deberías disculparte.
You should apologize. He will call soon.
He will call soon.
Él llamará pronto.
He will call soon. I would love that.
I would love that.
Me encantaría eso.
I would love that. You ought to rest.
You ought to rest.
Deberías descansar.
You ought to rest. She needs to sleep.
She needs to sleep.
Ella necesita dormir.
She needs to sleep. They can join us.
They can join us.
Ellos pueden unirse.
They can join us. You could try again.
You could try again.
Podrías intentarlo de nuevo.
You could try again. He may be outside.
He may be outside.
Él puede estar afuera.
He may be outside. She might be late.
She might be late.
Ella podría llegar tarde.
She might be late. You must hurry up.
You must hurry up.
Debes darte prisa.
You must hurry up. Shall we begin?
Shall we begin?
¿Empezamos?
Shall we begin? He should eat more.
He should eat more.
Él debería comer más.
He should eat more. I will bring snacks.
I will bring snacks.
Llevaré bocadillos.
I will bring snacks. She would enjoy this.
She would enjoy this.
A ella le encantaría esto.
She would enjoy this. You ought to listen.
You ought to listen.
Deberías escuchar.
You ought to listen. They need to study.
They need to study.
Necesitan estudiar.
They need to study. He can run fast.
He can run fast.
Él puede correr rápido.
He can run fast. You could ask her.
You could ask her.
Podrías preguntarle.
You could ask her. She may not come.
She may not come.
Ella puede que no venga.
She may not come. The train might delay.
The train might delay.
El tren podría retrasarse.
The train might delay. You must be careful.
You must be careful.
Debes tener cuidado.
You must be careful. Shall we go now?
Shall we go now?
Nos vamos ya.
Shall we go now? You should relax.
You should relax.
Deberías relajarte.
You should relax. They will help you.
They will help you.
Ellos te ayudarán.
They will help you. I would visit soon.
I would visit soon.
Visitaría pronto.
I would visit soon. You ought to call.
You ought to call.
Deberías llamar.
You ought to call. She needs fresh air.
She needs fresh air.
Ella necesita aire fresco.
She needs fresh air. He can fix it.
He can fix it.
Él puede arreglarlo.
He can fix it. You could stay longer.
You could stay longer.
Podrías quedarte más tiempo.
You could stay longer. He may not know.
He may not know.
Puede que él no lo sepa.
He may not know. She might be home.
She might be home.
Ella podría estar en casa.
She might be home. You must listen well.
You must listen well.
Debes escuchar bien.
You must listen well. Shall I close this?
Shall I close this?
¿Cierro esto?
Shall I close this? You should try harder.
You should try harder.
Deberías intentarlo más.
You should try harder. She will arrive soon.
She will arrive soon.
Ella llegará pronto.
She will arrive soon. He would like coffee.
He would like coffee.
A él le gustaría café.
He would like coffee. They ought to behave.
They ought to behave.
Ellos deberían comportarse.
They ought to behave. We need more time.
We need more time.
Necesitamos más tiempo.
We need more time. He can lift that.
He can lift that.
Él puede levantar eso.
He can lift that. You could explain it.
You could explain it.
Podrías explicarlo.
You could explain it. She may feel tired.
She may feel tired.
Ella podría sentirse cansada.
She may feel tired. He might forget.
He might forget.
Él podría olvidarlo.
He might forget. You must lock it.
You must lock it.
Debes cerrarlo.
You must lock it. Shall we start?
Shall we start?
¿Empezamos?
Shall we start? You should smile.
You should smile.
Deberías sonreír.
You should smile. I will meet you.
I will meet you.
Te llamaré.
I will meet you. He would enjoy that.
He would enjoy that.
A él le gustaría eso.
He would enjoy that. They ought to help.
They ought to help.
Ellos deberían ayudar.
They ought to help. You need to rest.
You need to rest.
Necesitas descansar.
You need to rest. She can paint well.
She can paint well.
Ella puede pintar bien.
She can paint well. He could play guitar.
He could play guitar.
Él podría tocar la guitarra.
He could play guitar. You may take one.
You may take one.
Puedes tomar uno.
You may take one. She might refuse.
She might refuse.
Ella podría negarse.
She might refuse. We must decide.
We must decide.
Debemos decidir.
We must decide. Shall I open it?
Shall I open it?
¿Abro esto?
Shall I open it? He should apologize.
He should apologize.
Él debería disculparse.
He should apologize. I will text you.
I will text you.
Te escribiré.
I will text you. She would appreciate.
She would appreciate.
Ella lo agradecería.
She would appreciate. You ought to respect.
You ought to respect.
Deberías respetar.
You ought to respect. They need to leave.
They need to leave.
Necesitan irse.
They need to leave. He can try harder.
He can try harder.
Él puede intentarlo mejor.
He can try harder. You could tell him.
You could tell him.
Podrías decírselo.
You could tell him. She may forget.
She may forget.
Ella podría olvidarlo.
She may forget. He might be asleep.
He might be asleep.
Él podría estar dormido.
He might be asleep. You must be quiet.
You must be quiet.
Debes estar en silencio.
You must be quiet. Shall we continue?
Shall we continue?
¿Continuamos?
Shall we continue? She should drive carefully.
She should drive carefully.
Ella debería manejar con cuidado.
She should drive carefully. They will return soon.
They will return soon.
Volverán pronto.
They will return soon. I would call later.
I would call later.
Llamaré más tarde.
I would call later. You ought to study.
You ought to study.
Deberías estudiar.
You ought to study. She needs more space.
She needs more space.
Ella necesita más espacio.
She needs more space. He can do better.
He can do better.
Él puede hacerlo mejor.
He can do better. You could invite them.
You could invite them.
Podrías invitarlo.
You could invite them. The flight may cancel.
The flight may cancel.
El vuelo podría cancelarse.
The flight may cancel. He might change plans.
He might change plans.
Él podría cambiar sus planes.
He might change plans. You must work hard.
You must work hard.
Debes trabajar duro.
You must work hard. Shall I help you?
Shall I help you?
¿Te ayudo?
Shall I help you? You should decide now.
You should decide now.
Deberías decidir ahora.
You should decide now. He will pick us.
He will pick us.
Él nos recogerá.
He will pick us. She would love that.
She would love that.
A ella le encantaría eso.
She would love that. You ought to behave.
You ought to behave.
Deberías comportarte.
You ought to behave. We need a break.
We need a break.
Necesitamos un descanso.
We need a break. He can write well.
He can write well.
Él puede escribir bien.
He can write well. You could stay longer.
You could stay longer.
Podrías quedarte más.
You could stay longer. She may want coffee.
She may want coffee.
Ella puede querer café.
She may want coffee. He might not answer.
He might not answer.
Puede que él no responda.
He might not answer. You must be ready.
You must be ready.
Debes estar listo.
You must be ready. Shall we leave now?
Shall we leave now?
Nos vamos ya.
Shall we leave now? They should sleep early.
They should sleep early.
Deberían dormir temprano.
They should sleep early. I will arrive later.
I will arrive later.
Llegaré más tarde.
I will arrive later. She would prefer tea.
She would prefer tea.
Ella preferiría té.
She would prefer tea. You ought to apologize.
You ought to apologize.
Deberías disculparte.
You ought to apologize. He needs to rest.
He needs to rest.
Él necesita descansar.
He needs to rest. She can finish first.
She can finish first.
Ella puede terminar primero.
She can finish first. You could explain better.
You could explain better.
Podrías explicarlo mejor.
You could explain better. They may join later.
They may join later.
Podrían unirse después.
They may join later. He might cancel plans.
He might cancel plans.
Él podría cancelar planes.
He might cancel plans. You must take care.
You must take care.
Debes tener cuidado.
You must take care. Shall I bring water?
Shall I bring water?
¿Llevo agua?
Shall I bring water? You should text her.
You should text her.
Deberías escribirle.
You should text her. He will drive us.
He will drive us.
Él nos llevará.
He will drive us. She would understand.
She would understand.
Ella lo entendería.
She would understand. You ought to listen.
You ought to listen.
Deberías escuchar.
You ought to listen. They need more time.
They need more time.
Necesitan más tiempo.
They need more time. He can solve this.
He can solve this.
Él puede resolver esto.
He can solve this. You could ask later.
You could ask later.
Podrías preguntar más tarde.
You could ask later. She may need help.
She may need help.
Ella puede necesitar ayuda.
She may need help. He might be outside.
He might be outside.
Él podría estar afuera.
He might be outside. You must trust me.
You must trust me.
Debes confiar en mí.
You must trust me. Shall we call her?
Shall we call her?
¿La llamamos?
Shall we call her? You should eat well.
You should eat well.
Deberías comer bien.
You should eat well. He will send it.
He will send it.
Él lo enviará.
He will send it. She would enjoy music.
She would enjoy music.
A ella le gustaría la música.
She would enjoy music. You ought to try it.
You ought to try it.
Deberías intentarlo.
You ought to try it. They need more food.
They need more food.
Necesitan más comida.
They need more food. He can carry that.
He can carry that.
Él puede cargar eso.
He can carry that. You could ask again.
You could ask again.
Podrías preguntar de nuevo.
You could ask again. She may be resting.
She may be resting.
Ella podría estar descansando.
She may be resting. He might say no.
He might say no.
Él podría decir que no.
He might say no. You must answer now.
You must answer now.
Debes responder ahora.
You must answer now. Shall I book it?
Shall I book it?
¿Lo reservo?
Shall I book it? You should sleep early.
You should sleep early.
Deberías dormir temprano.
You should sleep early. He will return soon.
He will return soon.
Él volverá pronto.
He will return soon. She would feel better.
She would feel better.
Ella se sentiría mejor.
She would feel better. You ought to exercise.
You ought to exercise.
Deberías hacer ejercicio.
You ought to exercise. We need more coffee.
We need more coffee.
Necesitamos más café.
We need more coffee. He can explain well.
He can explain well.
Él puede explicarlo bien.
He can explain well. You could try again.
You could try again.
Podrías intentarlo otra vez.
You could try again. She may visit later.
She may visit later.
Ella podría visitarnos.
She may visit later. He might not come.
He might not come.
Puede que él no venga.
He might not come. You must stay safe.
You must stay safe.
Debes estar seguro.
You must stay safe. Shall we go there?
Shall we go there?
¿Nos vamos?
Shall we go there? You should check that.
You should check that.
Deberías revisarlo.
You should check that. He will call back.
He will call back.
Él llamará después.
He will call back. She would appreciate help.
She would appreciate help.
Ella lo agradecería.
She would appreciate help. You ought to respect them.
You ought to respect them.
Deberías respetarlos.
You ought to respect them. They need more practice.
They need more practice.
Necesitan practicar más.
They need more practice. He can do this.
He can do this.
Él puede hacerlo.
He can do this. You could join us.
You could join us.
Podrías unirte.
You could join us. She may need directions.
She may need directions.
Ella puede necesitar indicaciones.
She may need directions. He might not agree.
He might not agree.
Él podría no estar de acuerdo.
He might not agree. You must act quickly.
You must act quickly.
Debes actuar rápido.
You must act quickly. Shall I ask them?
Shall I ask them?
Pregunto.
Shall I ask them? You should rest now.
You should rest now.
Deberías descansar.
You should rest now. You can sing well.
You can sing well.
Puedes cantar bien.
You can sing well.